All right, folks, back again for another week of Midweek with Eric Smith. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 10 p.m. Eastern. And my guest tonight will be my colleague, longtime friend, and a man who's a day oneer with the Toronto Raptors, Leo Rautins. And Leo is in the mix, and this is Leo's first ever Instagram Live. And if he can figure this out, I'm sure anybody can figure this out. And I know he's going to join us here in mere moments. I've sent the invite.
Hey.
And there he is. Leo.
What's up?
Now, hold on. You're sideways. There we go. Perfect.
You want me this way? All right. Hold on.
Yeah,
Hold
there we
on.
go.
Let me set this all up here. This is
Yep.
my first venture into, or one of my first. Oh, heck. Here we go.
There you go.
Put this right here so it doesn't fall anywhere. No, it's not working, is it?
That's all right. we can wait, man. We can wait.
Huh?
We got an hour. We've got an hour. We can wait for you.
All right. I just don't want to. How's that?
Good.
That work?
Good. Yeah.
All right.
So first of all, welcome to the show. Thanks for doing this.
Hey, my pleasure. You know?
I don't think you've watched many of these because you're
Cheers.
very new. I didn't even pour one for myself, Leo. I didn't even pour one. That's my fault. So I've been doing these for about a month now. We've talked to Matt, talked to Sherm, talked to Jonesy. And what I've been doing, Leo, is trying to look back at people's lives, let alone their careers. I'm not just talking current day about, the Raptors and the championship run or whatever. So I want to go back to the beginning for you, a young kid, a young Leo Rautins, born and raised in Toronto. And where did it all start for you, Leo, in terms of the passion for sports, let alone for basketball specifically as a youngster growing up in Toronto?
Well, you know what? My family background, number one. My mom's Lithuanian. My dad's Latvian. We were brought up in the Lithuanian community in Toronto. And as you know, basketball is the national sport in Lithuania. So all the Lithuanian kids, even though I was like every other Canadian kid playing hockey and doing all that, all the Lithuanian kids always went down to the Church of the Resurrection and were playing hoops. And we actually had coaches that knew basketball, and older guys were playing all the time, and that was my indoctrination to the game. And from that point on, my brother was really a good player. And from that point on, everything in my whole life was to be better than my brother. That was it. So, if my brother ended up going to St. Mike's, my brother got a scholarship to Niagara University. My brother played for Canada. My brother got drafted by the Buffalo Braves. So my objective was simple. I'm going to be the best player ever at St. Mike's. I'm going to be the best player ever for Canada. I'm going to get 100 scholarships. I'm going to be a first-round pick in the NBA. So whatever he did, the whole thing was I'm going to be bigger and better. That was really my driving force. And I was in love with the game. I could not get enough of it. Just played all the time.
Do you remember when it started? What age?
Around 8 years old. And like I said, I'll be on. Okay, so I started playing when I was 8, like the Lithuanian thing. And when my brother got his scholarship to Niagara University, I went to basketball camp, the Purple Eagle basketball camp. You and Jack talk about the Purple Eagles all the time, when Jack was coaching Niagara. And it was like somebody opened up this incredible world to me. I'm at basketball camp. I'm doing drills. I'm writing these drills down at night so I can remember them all when I go home. Ball handling drills, rebounding. It was unbelievable. It was this awakening. And really, I think from that point on, I couldn't get enough of the game. I just nonstop, just out in the courts, out in the driveway, out in anywhere playing, anywhere.
That internal competition that you had with your brother, at any point, because I know you've talked to me about it over the years, how much you looked up to your brother and how for years, and you tell me even to this day, you would say that your brother was the better player or your brother had such an incredible game. Was it always healthy competition? Like some brothers, it's healthy competition. It's all love. Other brothers, it's like, man, I just want to destroy my brother.
Oh, no, it wasn't healthy. You got to remember, my brother's 8 years older than me. So
yeah.
I was that annoying little kid that was tagging along. And my brother, okay, I'm going to give my brother some credit here. He also knew what my makeup was. So my brother would say, you suck, get lost, you can't play, you're no good. And to me, I was going, okay, really? Okay, I'm not going away here, buddy. So, he pushed me that way. And honestly, he pushed me that way. I was in the NBA. He goes, you should have dunked that. You should have, like, he kept pushing me, right? So that's the way my brother and our relationship is. But like I said, it was like I wanted to beat him. Like I wanted to be better than him. I wanted to go at him, right? Because one, I didn't, he was pushing me and was getting me angry, and he wouldn't let me. Like we used to have the Keele courts in Toronto, and guys were playing like they're playing 3-on-3 at one end. He goes, go down and get lost, go to court B. I want to play, and he treated me like like I shouldn't be there. Whereas fortunately, a lot of his buddies were great, and they took care of me, and they kept me around. And when he wasn't there, they let me play. I played in men's leagues. Like I was playing in men's leagues when I was 12 and 13 years old, and these guys were driving me, and these guys were, I had a very different upbringing than you and I would do with our kids. I mean, I'm in eighth grade. I'm sitting in a bar because I was playing in a men's league. And if I got into the bar with a fake ID, I sat there and I was there till 2 a.m. till my ride went home. Who would do that today? Right. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy, but that's what I had to do to survive and play the game of basketball at that time, because those men's leagues were my AAU, if you want to call it that,
Now, when you would come home from school every day, and I know you talked about this on, I saw like a little video report or a little video essay that was done for one of the local papers, kind of in the Keele area. I can't even remember, Leo, which publication it was, but it was recently. You talked about those runs. Yeah. Yes, yeah, and you talked about some of those runs that were going on at the community center and on Keele and with the pool outside and whatever else. How much was that driving you every day, where you get up, go to school, get home, and get immediately to the courts?
Oh, that's I lived on that. I mean, I could see, if you see that little thing they did I had a room in the third floor in the attic, and I had a little window. I could actually see the court. If there was a ball bouncing, like I could play for 4 hours straight and be exhausted. I go to my room, I'll look out. If I saw a ball bounce, I'm going right back, right? I was obsessed with it. People say, yeah, I was playing all day. I was playing all day. That's all I did. I mean, and then, you just keep playing, and different guys would show up. And it was a unique place because you had a lot of draft dodgers back then. So there were a lot of American guys that came to Canada that all played ball, that found out about this court. And we used to play pickup ball and all the time. And again, their background was more basketball than the Canadian guys, right? And then anybody that heard about the court would always be down there. So you always had games, always pick up. And then it got crazy where I could tell you how to sneak into half the gyms in Toronto. I could, as soon as I got a license at 16, I mean, if there was a pickup game in Buffalo, we were going. Pickup game in Hamilton, we were going. We throw 5 guys in the car, we're gone, Anywhere we heard there was a run, we were playing. And, fortunately, I did go to St. Mike's, which the Basilian fathers lived at the school. And you could sneak through the priest's residence, go through the cafeteria, come over to the balcony. You hang off the balcony. It's a 3-foot drop. You go in, and through the inside, you can roll the baskets down. You could open the doors from the inside. So we could go in and we could play and then close it up like we were never there. Now, they knew we were there, right?
Yeah.
It was a different time. They knew I was in there all the time, but I could always have a gym to go to. And like when anybody knew that when you want to play a pickup game, call Leo, because I always had a gym somewhere.
Now, Leo, what I find fascinating about all this too, not only in terms of you being able to find ways to play and locations to play, but you acknowledge that the passion for the game and the real commitment to the game starts around age 8, and yet here you are at 16 playing for the national team. I'll get to that in a second, but you told me something this year, and I think you just spoke about it recently on another podcast with some guys out east. But I think you told this story, at least to me originally, this past season, just a few months ago, and all the years that we've been working together, I had never heard you tell this story. But what you went through this year with your back and the travel that we've been doing and the issues you were having with your back before you ultimately were able to have surgery, maybe for folks that don't know the story or that haven't heard it, you can go back to you playing at 8, but around 11, I believe it was, 11, 12 years old, the major surgery you had, which could have and potentially should have, based on what the doctors were telling you, stopped your playing career, let alone impacted your life in terms of whether you might have walked again and everything else. Maybe you can walk people through that and kind of let them know the health struggles and the issues you had at such a young age.
Yeah, it was kind of weird because, like I said, I'm into hoops, right? And I'm athletic, I'm fast, I can run and jump, and I'm balling. And all of a sudden, I got all this pain in my back. I can't put my left leg down. Actually, my left leg is atrophying. All these things are happening. And my mom's dragging me to all these doctors, and they're telling her, it's in your head. Like, they're basically dismissing my mom. And finally, Sick Children's Hospital in Toronto, they said, holy mackerel, something's really wrong here. And there was two doctors, a Dr. Steele and a Dr. Robin Humphreys, who actually did the surgery, a neurosurgeon. He was one of the top guys at the time. And, you know, and he told my mom going into this thing that, you know, my parents, that there's a good chance that I may not walk after this. And there's a good chance, there's definitely, I'll never play sports again or anything like that. Okay, so I'm young and stupid. No one's really telling me much. I have the surgery, and I just, you know, you're telling a kid you can't play. Well, as soon as I wasn't within sight of my parents, I'm running. I'm trying to do whatever I can, and I could feel the difference though, because all that athleticism and speed I had before, it was like I had to relearn how to run. It was strange. So, you know, basically, like through the rest of my career, I kind of figured out how to manage my body, how to take care of my back. I can't say it was always perfect and comfortable, but I managed it, right? And so flash forward, my back over the last 2 years, it's bothered me quite a bit. Over the last year, say 8 months, it was brutal. I mean, it's horrible. It just, you know, unbelievable pain. And so I get these MRIs done, and I'm talking to all these top people, and they're going like, "Are you kidding me? Like, number one, how did you ever play the game? Number two, how are you walking? Like, how are you walking into my office to?" So and honestly, it's kind of freaking me out because I've always had a high threshold for pain, and it's part of my problem. I've actually hurt myself because of that. But to me, this is normal, right? This is my normal. And all of a sudden, these guys are scaring the beans out of me. And then it comes down to, like, even the surgeon, Dr. Dan Cohen in Miami, that did my surgery. I mean, the first time he's looking at my MRI, like every inch of my back, he's going, "Oh, Jesus. Oh," it's like, I'm going, "Doc, come on, seriously, man? You're scaring the crap out of me." But you know, he just said, I'm pretty confident I can help you here. And I had the surgery, and it's been remarkable since then. But you know, it's been a crazy ride. I mean, really, I feel, it's this weird feeling. I think I said it to you last time. I don't know how to put it into words.
Yeah.
Is it blessed? Did I cheat? How did my life that I have, is based on who I was, based on, you know, everything I did, and what I did maybe should never have happened. Right. So it's an odd, kind of an eerie feeling to know that somehow you cheated the system. Somehow I got away with this. And obviously, you know, I feel very blessed and grateful to have had whatever I've had. And it's probably another reason that, you know, I've had multiple knee surgeries, and, you know, I've had freaking close to 30 operations. It's very reasonable to assume that because things with your body aren't right, it's going to affect your gait. It's going to affect how you run, how you move, and that's going to lead to other things, right? So I think it's pretty safe to assume that my back probably created a lot of other things that I dealt with.
Well, it's funny. I was just going to mention that because when Sherman and I were chatting last week, and he spoke about his back injury and the back surgery he had and breaking both collarbones, and we were just sort of, you know, doing the weekend warrior stories, because I can't speak to the level, obviously, that Sherman played at, let alone that you played at. But, you know, even for anybody watching right now, Leo, the weekend warriors that have had maybe a couple of broken bones or maybe a couple of surgeries, and they're feeling it at 40, 50, 60 years old. But for you having 30 surgeries, you've got to imagine from that whole, knee bone's connected to the shin bone, connected to the hip bone, everything's kind of tying in. You would imagine that that's had some sort of impact. But for you to be able to continue on through the national team, through college, through the pros, through playing overseas, all of that with all of these surgeries, let alone with this back issue and surgery that started at a young age, it truly is incredible what your body's been through and what you've been able to kind of suppress and continue to forge forward.
Yeah, it is kind of wild when you think about it. But what else does it tell you? You see guys today when they come to the NBA, right? The testing and everything before you even get drafted, right? Could you imagine my body getting tested today? I mean, the night before I got drafted by the Sixers, I flew to Philly. I get on a table. A doc goes, okay, bend your knee, touch my, you're good. That was my physical. I mean, that was literally my physical. I flew all the way to Philadelphia for that. Whereas today, the MRIs and everything alone would have said, dude, you're done. You can't play. So it's, it's weird. I mean, my body's, taking a lot, but I'll tell you what, it's, I do it all over again. No matter how I feel today, I do it all over again.
Well, and I don't know if you ever sent the picture out, but for the folks that are watching or that, watch back to this tomorrow or later, whatever, the picture that Leo showed me of the stuff that came out of his back.
It looked like a shrimp cocktail.
Oh my God. Like I know some of the guys didn't even want to look. I'm one of those, perverted people that wants to see it. I'm warped that way. I want to see the picture. And I looked, I'm like, oh my God, what? I don't even know what I'm looking at, but the junk that came out of your back that they carved out of you just a few months ago, it's incredible to me.
Yeah. And then, and these rods and screws and spacers and all kinds of stuff in there. It's, I know the doc showed, he came in after surgery, showed me everything. Oh, that's not bad right there. I said, am I going to be able to go through airports or whatever? He said, yeah, you'll be all right. But no, it's pretty, it's pretty crazy. The whole journey's been crazy. And it's, that's part of life though. And I think it's like I tell players all the time. I mean, everybody's dealt a hand, everybody's got certain things you got to deal with. And you make excuses or you just find a way, right? You find a way to grind through. You find a way to make yourself stronger. So, like I said, I'll give you an example. Like my wife, she meets the surgeon that does my operation, and she's going, Doc, you got to tell him to stop. He's doing this and he's doing that, and he's like, and he's going, wait, he shouldn't be walking, right? So whatever he's doing, let him keep doing, okay? So you just find things, you push yourself, right? You find things to stay healthy, stay strong, and you got to have a little luck.
All right, let me ask you this. You might have just answered this in a roundabout way, but let's go back to 11 years old then after the surgery. I would come at this right now as a parent and think, if my 11-year-old kid had major back surgery and I'd just been told as a father, as a parent, that my kid potentially might not walk again, but luckily he comes out of surgery, I got to think that I'm following him around, like, trying to guard him from everything, trying to put a bubble around him. I sure as heck don't want him playing any kind of contact sports. I'm treating him with kid gloves for as long as I can. And not to imply that your parents weren't, but how did you convince yourself that your body would respond the way you needed to, let alone convince your parents to allow you eventually to get back out there, to continue to play, and not just play like hacking around, but playing at an elite high level?
You got to remember, I'm young and stupid, right? So I'm a kid. So like I said, as soon as no one's looking at me, I'm running. I'm trying to play. I'm doing things. And, both my parents worked, right? My mom's working, teaching, my piano, my dad's working all day long. So it's not like they're watching me all the time. And, times are different, right? Like, we're always around our kids. I mean, back then we were very independent. We're doing our own thing. And so I just started just doing more and more. And I think, and my parents are, they're both very supportive, protective, yes, but not overbearing in any way. And I think they're looking at me going, okay, well, he's getting healthier. He's getting stronger. Things seem to be going okay. My doctor visits were all good. And, they just kind of went with it. And, like I said, these are the same parents that I'm coming home at 2 o'clock in the morning on a school night, because they kind of know that how else are you going to do what you're doing? You know, I would I allow my kid to do that? Hell no. But again, it was a different time.
So, Leo, I'm going to glaze over a couple of years here because, you know, we try to stay within the hour. This is one thing I'm teaching you. Instagram only gives you 1 hour. You get automatically kicked off at the 1 hour point. So we either have to fire back up or I got to bring you back for a second episode, which I'll probably end up doing because I don't know if we'll get in all the stories that you want to share that I want to ask. But take me from then 11, 12 years old and going from elementary school, high school, St. Mike's, and all of a sudden, boom, playing for the Canadian national team at age 16. We haven't even gotten to college yet in Syracuse. How are you to the point where playing for only about 8 years, you're already now playing for the senior men's national team?
Well, again, it comes back to one, being pushed by my brother, being in the environment of older guys, right? So, you know, I'm not playing with kids my age. You know, yeah, I have to for school or whatever else. But other than that, I'm playing with grown men. They're teaching me how to play. They're physical. They're banging me. They're saying, you take another stupid shot like that, we'll knock you out, right? So you're learning how to play. You're just not playing to do whatever you want. And I kept growing. I mean, I stopped growing at the end of ninth grade. So the height you see me at, that's it at the end of ninth grade. So I had grown, and my body just kept getting stronger. I could jump, I could run, and like I said, I just had this burning desire to play. I mean, I was going to be an NBA player. It makes no sense. You know, I saw a handful of games at Maple Leaf Gardens. Bob McAdoo, I fell in love with, wore number 11. But I was so enthralled with the game and so into the game that, like, I used to see my brother played for Canada, and I'd see these envelopes coming in Canada, and you're going to be traveling here. I'm going, I'm doing that. Like, I'm doing this. I'm going on these trips, right? So I was convinced that I was going to be in the NBA. I was convinced I was going to do all these things, and I just did whatever it took. You know, and it's a funny story. I tell people all the time. I tell kids all the time that, you know, it's like the Michael Jordan getting cut, you know, in ninth grade or whatever. I tried out for the Ontario junior team, and back then it wasn't like today where you got a U16, U14, U15, or whatever. It was 21 and under. But I thought I was good enough. You know, I thought I was good enough, you know, right around 16 to make the team. And they cut me, and they said, hey, thanks for coming out the whole bit. I was pissed, right? I was definitely pissed. And see, the way I am, though, I didn't mope. I said, okay, you're going to remember me. I'm coming back, and you're going to remember me. And as much as I played, as hard as I worked even harder. And I tried to find more ways. And then, so it came down to, I was playing an all-star game in Buffalo. I actually got my first scholarship offer that night. A school, they saw me play. It was a all-star team from Toronto. And we got home about 1:30 in the morning. And my dad wakes me up early in the morning, 7 o'clock, whatever it was. He goes, hey, you're going to go try out there's an open tryout for the national team. I go, seriously, like what? They're going to tell me I'm too young? Because like 7, 8 months ago, I got cut by the junior team in Ontario.
Yeah.
And he goes, look, what are you going to do all day? I'm going to play. He goes, who you play with? I'll get all the guys. He goes, everybody's there. Let's go. I'll drive you. So I said, okay, I'll go, right? And I played. I couldn't have played more than 5-10 minutes. Played really well. I mean, I had a dunk, I had a jumper, blocked the shot, I did a whole bunch of stuff. And then Jack Donahue says, come over here. I go, okay, here it goes. Thanks for coming out. You're too young. Hey, you know, appreciate it. And he says, I want to invite you to the national camp. Whoa.
Wow.
Whoa. And that changed my life. Jack Donahue saw something in me. He gave me an opportunity. He knew how to connect with me. He made me believe. I always said I'm going to be in the NBA. He confirmed that for me, because here's a guy that coached Alcindor Jabbar in high school. Here's a guy that coached U.S. college ball. Here's a guy everybody knew. He said, you're going to make it in the NBA. So that was my confirmation that all my work, everything is, and he's the one that gave me the life that I have. He found me, and he developed me.
Leo, whether it was in the coming months or years later, did he ever reveal to you, in I'm sure the multiple conversations you guys had, what it was that he saw in you that ultimately, allowed him and prompted him to tap you on the shoulder at such a young age?
I think, well, one, they liked my talent, but I think what and Coach Steve Konchalski, from St. FX, Steve was always Jack's assistant for all the years I was playing. And Steve says what they loved was I wasn't afraid, right? I went into that first camp, and the first morning, I love telling the story because everybody's like, they used to put 10 guys on the floor, and everybody would just match up. So that first morning, everybody's going, I got him. I got him. They're pointing at the high school kid, right?
Yeah.
And by that afternoon, I was the last guy. Nobody picked me. I was like, oh, shit, I got him. So I just came out and I dunked on the biggest guy in camp, Jimmy Zoo. I went right down the lane and just threw it on him. And I think what Steve said was that I had no fear. I just loved the game, and I played, and I wasn't afraid to play. And I think that's something that they saw in me, that with the talent I had and they felt I had, if I had that kind of a mentality, then I could be successful.
Did you ever get any sense of any resentment from the older guys having this young kid on the team?
I got that later when I started. By the end of, it's funny how things play out. I make the team, and we actually played in this Intercontinental Cup in Europe. So you play 5 teams in Europe, and then you come back and play the same 5 teams again in Canada. And we played all over Europe and all over Canada. And on that first swing through Europe, I hardly played, right? I hardly played. And I was getting discouraged. And Jack Donahue actually pulled me to the front of the bus. He says, are you okay? I said, yeah. He goes, you think you should be playing? I go, yeah. And then he says, he goes, do you believe you're going to be an NBA player? I go, yeah. He goes, you're going to be. You're going to be. Just keep working. And so I felt better. But then we come back to Canada, and our first game back, and Ross Quackenbush, who coached at St. Mary's and was a tremendous player. At that point in time, he was the best player in Canada. He was unbelievable at that camp and on that tour. And Ross was a starting small forward, and we're playing Israel in Windsor, and Rod messes up his ankle really bad in the start of the second half, or end of the first half. And I start the second half, and we win, and I play well. And then the next game we're playing Italy, or I think it was Italy, and I'm assuming I'm going to start. And Jack Donahue, like, he sees me upset. He goes, you think you should be starting? I go, like any kid, yeah. He goes, just play, right? Well, we end up beating Italy. Now, you got to remember, we went 0 for 5 in Europe against these same teams. We beat Israel, and I played. We beat Italy in overtime. I think it was in New Fredericton or someplace like that. I had like 19, and we won in overtime. Next game, we're playing Yugoslavia. I start. Now, Yugoslavia is one of the top teams in the world, and I had 24. We beat Yugoslavia, right? And the only game we lost was the Soviet Union on that trip. But anyway, I started to, as that was happening, that's when I started to feel some guys resented that, I had stepped into this role. Because really, quite honestly, Ross's misfortune was my fortune. That was my opening, and once that door opened, it was my team. And I felt some along the way, but I can't say I felt a lot. I mean, I'm a kid, so you're going to have some guys not like that too much,
So I want to get to the college years and obviously the NBA years as well. But to go from 16 years old, and that would have been what, 76, 77, to then
77,
playing
78, yeah, 77.
Okay. So then to play until 92 with the national team?
Well, remember, there was that break, right? There was
Yep.
I turned pro in 83. And so because I turned pro, I couldn't play in 84. And then in 89 again, they allowed pros to play, right? That's the whole dream team thing. And So there was a big gap there, but yeah, there was a certain amount of time I played. Yeah.
So I acknowledge that this isn't the most fair question, because I'm sure you could probably do an entire hour on just the Canadian national team. But Leo, give me one or two stories or memories that stand out from essentially 15 years spanning, with a break in between, but for all of your years with the national team as a player, not within the coaching ranks, that sort of stand out most for you.
Well, I have to say, in my going into my senior year of college that summer, we played in Knoxville, Tennessee, the World's Fair. It was a 4-team tournament: China, Yugoslavia, United States, and us. And we had battled the United States a bunch of times. We had close games, but couldn't get over the hump. And this U.S. team's good. They got 12 first-round picks. I mean, Andrew Wiggins' dad was on that team: Mitch Wiggins, Doc Rivers, Antoine Carr. It was a good squad. And so the game before we play Yugoslavia, and we have this guard, Stuart Granger, who's the best point guard Canada's never heard of. Okay, Stu was played at Villanova. He got drafted to the NBA. Stu was unbelievable. He just lights up Yugoslavia. We beat Yugoslavia, and I have a good game too. And next game we're playing the United States. So we come out and we just beat the snot out of them, right? We beat the United States in the United States. I had like, I don't know, like 25 points, 14 boards, big game. And Jack Donahue came up to me. Remember at that time, Marty Blake was the guru, right? He was if Marty Blake said, "You're a first round pick, you're a first round pick." That's the way it was. So Jack Donahue came up to me right after the game and said, "Marty Blake says you're a first round pick." So I was like, boom, right? So plus it was the first time we beat the United States. And so they used to treat us with a little bit of arrogance, the people that ran Basketball USA. And I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he came into our locker room and he gave us the game ball after. So you got to remember, on that team, we had about 7 draft picks. Mm-hmm. Right? People forget about that. They think the game just started a few years ago. But we had Billy Wennington was on that team. Greg Wilcher was on that team. Danny Mahar was on that team. Jay Triana was on that team. We had 7 or 8 draft picks on that team. And Stuart Granger, 2 first-round picks, 3 first-round picks on that team. So but we all signed the ball and sent it back to the USA locker room. Like I said, we were a fun bunch. We had a good time. So that to me was a great memory. And I think a lot of it too is just we're traveling around the world. Nobody really knew what we were doing. I mean, nobody cared, right? So we're traveling around the world playing in all these places and these crazy games, and some of the things that happen. I mean, there are brawls, fights. I mean, just incredible stories, incredible things. So to me, there's so many great experiences. Really, really was special.
All right, let me rewind a little bit now. We're going back to the college years. 1 year at Minnesota, and then the 3 years at Syracuse. First of all, why Minnesota? I mean, how did that all come together? And then ultimately, why the switch, and clearly the right decision to go to Syracuse, considering the career you ended up having with the Orange?
Minnesota, Big Ten was the conference, like a big conference, right? And I went down there on a weekend visit. They played Louisville, the Doctors of Dunk, and they played Purdue with Joe Barry Carroll, and they had 18,000 people. It was crazy. I just I liked it. I liked what I saw. So I ended up going there. But, shortly after getting there, you realize, like, you didn't have to go to class. You didn't have to do much of anything over there. Yeah, but we had the sorry about that. We had the best recruiting class.
I'm just glad you got shorts on, buddy. That's all I'm glad for.
Yeah, which is unusual. But we had the best recruiting class in the country, my class. And tell you how good it was. Kevin Stallings, who's a big time NCAA coach. Kevin was part of that recruiting class, and Kevin came in, walks in, we're all playing pickup ball. He goes, "I'm never going to play here." And he leaves, and he's a starter at Purdue. But that's how impressive the talent was. But we had a lot of characters. Kevin McHale was on that team. Bill Duffy, a big super agent today, is on that team. Trent Tucker was on that team. He was a freshman with me. But again, you didn't have to go to class, and I could have stayed there and had a really good career, but I wanted more, right? And there also was that rule, if you remember. Larry Bird left Indiana, went to Indiana State. He got drafted his junior year, which was his senior year, what would have been his class graduating in Indiana. So the Celtics draft him, and the Celtics have to sign him by the next draft, or he goes back in a draft.
Right.
So he's got all the leverage. So one of my criteria when I said, okay, one, I want to find a school academically where I can get a degree, but two, what do I have to lose? I can get drafted twice. It's perfect, right? So I transfer. What do? They change the rule right after I transfer. So, but yeah. So I mean, like I said, I could have stayed there, but then I actually signed with Marshall in West Virginia. A lot of people don't know that, but Stu Aberdeen was the coach. Stu actually was Canadian. He was the big part of the Ernie and Bernie show at Tennessee. He was the big recruiter for them. And I really believed he was going to turn that program around, and I was going to be the focal point. And after, transferring, you kind of want something different. I was pretty excited about that. And then unfortunately, Stu passed away. He had a previous heart attack, and 3 weeks after I said I'm coming, he passed away. And Syracuse was there before Minnesota. Syracuse was there before Marshall, and Syracuse is still there. So I ended up at Syracuse. And the crazy thing, though, think about this. I go to Syracuse, and there's no Big East Conference. There's no Carrier Dome. None of that. By the time I play, after redshirting, we have the best conference in the country, or beginning of the best conference in the country, and we're playing in front of 30,000 people at the Carrier Dome. And none of that was in that picture when I said I'm going to Syracuse.
So Leo, what was that like then for a guy, for as much as you had already played on the world stage with the national team and your year at Minnesota and all of the time you'd played? It's got to be a different feeling, I would imagine. Just even the sight lines alone in a dome versus in a regular arena or a small gym, but then in front of that amount of people to be playing at such a high level, that's got to be, I mean, first of all, a thrill, but it's got to be an adjustment, I would assume.
Well, to be honest with the national team, we played in the Philippines. They had a 30,000 seat arena, and wow. It was packed. And I remind me to tell you a Philippine story, but
not for here.
No, it's actually a good basketball story. But,
go ahead.
But so I was the crowds but it was more. It was crazy. It really was. It got to the point where my senior year inter squad, we had 27,000 people at our inter squad game.
Wow.
27,000 for an inter squad, and it was crazier back then. It's not like Andy played at Syracuse. It wasn't the same. I remember going back to my dorm after a game, and my ears were going, whoa, like I couldn't hear anything. It was so loud in there and crazy. So,
all right. Again, I'm moving fairly quickly because, as you can see already, Leo, we got like 20 minutes left. We haven't even gotten to the NBA, let alone 25 years with the Toronto Raptors. So I'm going to be bugging you to come back on another episode in a month or two or something.
I'll be happy to come back.
Because I don't mean to glaze over the college career, but all right, let's go then from Syracuse to 83 and the draft. But before that,
do you want to hear my Philippine story?
Yes, I just said. So before I get to this, I want to hear, seeing as you brought up, I want to hear this Philippine story.
Okay, so we're playing the United States for 5th place in the world. Okay?
Yep.
Now, there's a monsoon happening outside. There's people on boats in the streets, right? The bus had to drive up the stairs of this Coliseum, and they put boards out so we don't get our sneakers wet. Because we go to the game in our stuff. It's not like today where you got all this, you never wear your sneaker. So we get off, we go in the arena. There's actually dripping through the roof. There's puddles on the floor. So they throw towels down here and there on the floor. This is 1978, right? So game, we're down 4. I score our last 2 buckets, tie game. We get the ball back. So Jack Donahue we've got a timeout. And coach is talking to me, and Ross Quackenbush is trying to get my attention. And coach is like, leave alone. And coach is talking for the last play. And Ross is trying to talk to me, leave alone. And so the last play is ball comes inbound to me, and I just take it. Just go to length of the court and score. That's it. Win the game. So We come out of the huddle, right? I get the ball. I start driving from like our free throw line, and I'm going past half court. I get to half court. My legs go up in the air. I go flying. The ball goes straight up in the air. I land on my back. As the ball comes down on the other side of half court, like so where the direction I was going, it lands in the hands of the best shooter in the United States, this guy Hoffman from North Carolina, right? He catches the ball, throws it up. I'm laying on my back like this, watching the ball go over my head. Swish.
Come on.
We lose. We lose. 5th place in the world. You know what Ross was trying to tell me the whole time? I was standing in the puddle. He goes, your feet are wet. Your feet are wet, right? And so it was crazy. But, you know, what a, you know, and I remember a great lesson from Jack Donahue. I was really upset, and he goes, you know, I'm 18 years old. I'm really upset. He's going, he goes, you know what, you know, if you would have made that shot, would you have won the game? I go, oh, so you would have won the game. He goes, hey, no player wins or loses the game. All right. If we did everything we're supposed to do, it doesn't come down to that play. And it was a great lesson, you know, because I was devastated. And he just said, hey, you know, don't be selfish, man. No one player wins or loses. So it was a great lesson.
All right, Leo, let me go back now then to 83, drafted into the NBA. You said you were going to be playing the NBA. Jack Donahue said you'd play in the NBA. Here you are, drafted 17th overall. Outside of your parents, outside of your family, who's the first person you either call or at least first person you think of when you make it to the NBA?
My family. That's it. My mom and dad, you know, because they're the ones that are there. My mom, my dad, my brother, you know, they were there for me. And so they understood the whole thing. They understood the whole struggle. And they always believed in me. So the crazy thing is that my junior year, we're playing in a Big East tournament in Hartford, Connecticut, and Jack Donahue's sitting with Red Auerbach. And Red Auerbach tells Donahue that if I come out, the Celtics will take me. That's my team. That's the team I want to play for. But, you know, the Celtics have the last pick because they're one of the top teams. So if there's nothing in writing, there's nothing you can be guaranteed if they don't take you. And I had surgery on my knee junior year. I missed a bunch of games. Actually, I had 2 surgeries in season. And so I was concerned about that. And so it was really tempting, but I just figured I'd come back for my senior year. And, you know, and then I was talking about this the other day, and then Jack Donahue proposes to me, he goes, you know, what if you don't play? What if you go to Europe and play in the 84 Olympics? Man, I'm a young kid, man. I just got drafted by the NBA champions, right? I mean, it's like, yet at the same time, I love Europe. And at that time, nobody that got drafted by the world champions was going to say, I'm going over here. I could have been the highest paid player in Italy or Spain or wherever. And it's one of the things I do regret when you look back. Had I done that, like I'm young, I'm cocky, you know, but 2 guys in my position were Dr. J and Bobby Jones. Right? I mean, hey, see, originally when they had that pick, they were trying to time retirement, and they thought that they would be stepping away from the game, but they didn't. So now there was a little bit of a backlog, right? So, you know, had I gone to Europe, I could have still been the property of the 76ers, been the highest paid player in Europe, and come back when they retire. So, and Jack Donahue threw that out there, and, you know, he was a little wiser than me, but, you know, when you're young and stupid, you just go.
It's interesting you tell me that story, though, because just earlier today, I know you just did an interview with Damon Stoudemire a few days ago on Raptors.com, and I actually did an interview today with Matt Bonner for a podcast that we're doing on The Fan, and Bonner told the story of when he was drafted by the Raptors by Glenn Grunwald, played a year overseas, and it was the reason he played the year overseas was because he was guaranteed a roster spot with the Raptors the following year. So it would be just 1 year over in Europe. But when he came back after that 1 year playing in Italy, it was new head coach, Sam Mitchell, and new general manager in Rob Babcock, Grunwald and Kevin O'Neill gone. So that guarantee was out the door. And he said after training camp, he actually made the final roster spot. And he walked into the office, and Babcock said to Bonner, "We want you on the team." And Mitchell was in the office as well. And they said, "We want you on the team. You've made the team, but we can't give you a guaranteed contract because we're only carrying 2 point guards, and Ray Feralson and Milt Palacio. If one of our point guards goes down, we need that roster spot to sign another point guard. Otherwise, we're pooched. So we can only give you a non-guaranteed deal. But there are a bunch of teams in Europe that have already contacted us, and you could go make millions over there. Instead of being the 15th man with the Raptors, you'd be the star player overseas." And Matt said he was like in that moment, him and Han, and it was Sam that just looked at him, and this is according to Matt, and said, "When you were a kid, did you dream of playing in the NBA or did you dream of playing in Europe?" And Matt said, "NBA." And he goes, "Sign the damn contract." And Matt leaned over the table and signed the contract right there, and that was it.
That's basically the way I looked at it, right? I'd worked all this time, and I'm in the NBA, and you're not thinking about where my minute's going to come from. And then the other thing, I got hurt, and you're not thinking about all that kind of stuff. And the NBA was a different league back then. You see now, guys, look, OG Anunoby's a great example. He blew out his knee in college. You still get drafted in the first round, right? If you blew out your knee when I was playing, you're done. And I had a couple injuries, and it catches up with you. It was a different time, but like I said, interesting experience. When you look back and you see what maybe could have been done a little differently and how it would have turned out, but still, it was pretty cool. The whole thing was pretty cool.
So, Leo, as you say, you come into the NBA with Dr. J and Bobby Jones. Then you end up leaving the Sixers in a trade because they're trying to make room for Charles Barkley. Indiana to then signing with Atlanta. Walk us through that and just kind of your journey in the NBA and just kind of trying to maybe get your legs and trying to find a consistent role and a home.
Yeah, that was tough because after my rookie year, I was really determined I'm gonna show everybody and come back healthy and play. And then I do get traded to Indiana. And the crazy thing about it, I don't know anything about anything. I'm just going, okay, I could start at Indiana, right? I'm actually excited, believe it or not. And I go down there and something's crazy. I mean, within 2 days of being in training camp, I'm going, something's not right here. Something is off. And we didn't even play we didn't even have our first scrimmage. And my agent called me up. He said, "They're going to let you go." I go, "What are you talking about?" Because they're going to let you go. And they had signed they had a couple of draft picks they were going to sign, and they didn't have they weren't going to not sign those guys, right? So I'm going, all of a sudden I'm getting cut by Indiana. I'm going like, I don't get it, right? I don't get it. And Phil Jasner was a writer in Philadelphia. He's deceased now, but Phil was a great writer. And Phil called me up. He said, "What's going on?" I said, "Phil, I don't know." He goes, "This is crazy." He goes, "I don't get it either." And flash forward, in January, George Johnson goes from Indiana to Philadelphia, no trade, nothing. That was the completion of my deal. All right. And so I had to be moved to Indiana so they could sign Charles Barkley and Leon Wood. And so Indiana, that was just a home. And now Indiana actually had to pay me my contract. It was a deferred contract at this point. So I'm getting paid by Indiana. It made no sense. Like, things were just crazy. So I'm ticked off. And then I'm really ticked off. All of a sudden, 10 days later, Atlanta calls. And so I go to camp. Honestly, I don't even want to go there, but I go, and I play really well. And by all accounts, I mean, we had one game in Toronto against Detroit Pistons and Isaiah Thomas, and I had about 16 points, made some big buckets at the end. We win the game, make the team. I think the cuts were next day. I make the team, and Mike Fratello was the coach. And I remember telling Mike, I said, "Mike, I want to find an apartment." "Yeah, we're going to take care of all that. We're going to take care of that." I make the team. I go, "Mike, I want to get that apartment." "Yeah, we're going to take care of that. We're going to." Well, 5 days later, I walk into into the like 3 or 4 games in, they called me into the office, and you got Stan Kasten, the GM, Ronnie Rothstein was an assistant coach, Brendan Surr, all the coaches, and Mike Fratello. And as soon as I walk in a room, I know I'm cut. All right. And when they tell you, when they start out saying you belong in this league, you know you're not going to be in this league. So anyway, at that point, I'm going, man, I just want to go play in Europe or something. So this is crazy. Because what happened is they moved Dominique Wilkins into the backcourt. I was at the 2 guard. And once they moved him to the backcourt, you're not going to have 2 of us there, right? So
yeah.
They ended up not keeping him there, but that was what they did then. And so I was out,
How tough was it for you, Leo, to, as we just talked about and we've referenced a couple times here in this conversation, from such a young age, I'm going to make the NBA. You make the NBA. You've already had a decorated, international career, which will continue later on after your NBA career as well. But to go drafted in the first round, 17th overall, second Canadian player, into the NBA, in the first round, and then it's not even really 2 seasons. It's 2 years and bounced around, and all of a sudden now playing over in Europe. How disappointing was that? And how much did that take you to kind of mentally just get over that?
Well, just like same thing we talk about my back. I'm not gonna get buried on something mentally. I'm gonna move on. I was upset about it. I mean, again, I had injuries that weren't handled. Right, that was one that really bothered me, and that created a problem. Back then, teams would think, okay, you got issues with injuries, and I couldn't overcome that. And like I said, if you go into a camp and you play well, and like I said, I couldn't have done anything more with the Atlanta Hawks. But if it's not going to work, it's not going to work. So
yeah.
At that point, I just said I'm not gonna beg for it to happen. So I went over to Europe, and like I said, I love playing in Europe, and the money I actually made more in Europe than I was making in the NBA. You're the Larry Bird of their team in Europe. I mean, you're getting the shots, you're playing, so it's fun playing, and I didn't mind living there. And like I said, I wasn't going to chase it. So there were a few opportunities later, and I looked at a few, and I actually went to camp in certain situations. But at that point, I was ticked off about it, but I was happy with what I was doing. So it wasn't like I was mourning about it,
Yeah, yeah. Now, you had obviously a couple of spots, a couple of destinations in Europe. Which was your favorite in terms of where you played and why?
I loved Italy. Italy was good basketball. There's no such thing as a bad meal, right? Every day is just like, you got to be kidding me. The people were great. I love the language. I speak Italian. The whole lifestyle. I just really enjoyed it. So to me, Italy was the best overall package. Spain was good. I played on the Costa del Sol and Malaga, right on the Mediterranean. I mean, that was nice. France probably was, I thought, the most athletic, toughest league, because you had a bunch of Americans. All the other leagues had 2 foreigners in a team. France, they had all these. France had the kind of lax rules. So you had the African colonies, you had Americans. They would. You would marry the secretary's, the president's daughter or a secretary, and all of a sudden you're French. They had all these crazy things going on back then. So French league was good, but Italy had the best experience to me. I really enjoyed that.
Now, Leo, as I said about 25 minutes ago or 20 minutes ago, clearly part 2 is needed because we have 5 minutes left and we haven't even gotten to, oh yeah, by the way, the Toronto Raptors come into existence in 95, 96, and here you are. One of the day oneers. So I want to talk about the Raptors and tell those stories. So we'll get you on again in 4 to 6 weeks or something, unless we're actually back calling games, which I know you and I would rather be doing than doing this. With all no disrespect to the audience, I enjoy doing this, but we'd rather be calling Raptor games and playoff action and everything else. But in the last 5 minutes here, to go from the playing career overseas, as you noted earlier, to then be allowed to be playing for the national team again after your NBA stuff is done. Now you're back in 89, now you're back in 92, and you're playing in the qualifiers, the Tournament of the Americas, trying to qualify for Barcelona. that was your last stint, correct, with the national team?
Yeah. My worst.
Tell me about that, because obviously just missing that opportunity then to maybe compete in 92.
Yeah, my recollection of playing for the national team, all the years of playing for Jack Donahue, we overachieved. We fought. We did things people didn't expect us to. That 92 was underachievement. It shouldn't have happened. That team should have gone to the Olympics. There was just so much stuff around that team that would take a long time to get into, but it was disappointing, discouraging, and like I said, I don't have many national team experiences that I just look back and just that's one of them. And it's a real shame. And the crazy part too is that and nobody really knows that I tore my knee right before the Olympic qualifier, and I had surgery 2 days after we got eliminated, and I already had a contract to play in France, and I couldn't tell anybody. Nobody could know I had got hurt. Nobody could know I had surgery, and I had to show up and be on a court in training camp 12 days after surgery without anybody knowing I had surgery. So that precipitated the end of my career, period, because by November I was done. So it was kind of a crash ending, physically and just a bitter ending with the national team, because like I said, all my memories have always been just overachieving, fighting, having a great time, good guys, the whole bit. And that was just a tough one.
Well, and it's crazy how things work out, though, I suppose, even though this, it's not the way maybe you wanted your career to end, but a bitter end with Canada, and then an injury that kind of ends the playing career in France. But here you are, less than 2 years later, 94 World Championships in Toronto. You have a chance to be on the broadcast and working the broadcast in TO, and then that serves essentially as an audition, as a springboard to the next 25 years of your life.
Well, you know what, it's like, hey, when I had surgery on my knee in France, right before and it's bad, and so I know I'm done. I go back and I crack open a bottle and I'm upset. I feel sorry for myself. I allow myself that. Wake up the next morning, I got on the phone from France. I called back to Syracuse, this and that. By the next week, I was working in TV, doing games and stuff back at Syracuse, and starting my next career. So just like I said, I don't hang on and mourn and do that. Like I gave myself 24 hours to have a little pity party, but my basketball career was over, and I shifted into another career. And again, the only reason I was able to do the Worlds is because I already had a resume. And then the Worlds became my resume for the Raptors. So it's funny how things work out, but the whole thing is moving forward, right? Don't let hiccups slow you down.
Well, this is a perfect spot to end, because we're probably going to get bumped in about 90 seconds anyways, Leo. So the hour flew by, and again, we didn't even get to the Raptors. So part 2, folks, in the coming weeks, we'll get Leo back on, and we'll talk strictly about the Raptors, because we ended at 94. We're going to pick it up at 95, and we'll tell some Raptor stories and memories over the years and do it again another night. But, Leo, I appreciate you doing this, man. Thanks for joining me. And I know you and I are going to be talking on a Raptor call tomorrow morning, on Crew Call. If folks want to watch that on Raptors YouTube and Raptors.com, we'll be doing another episode tomorrow. But I appreciate the time tonight, man, and all the best to you and the family.
Same to you, E. Always good to catch up. And all the folks out there listening, hey, be safe. This thing has not passed us yet, so be safe and do whatever you have to do to take care of yourself and be mindful of everybody else. So,
all right, Leo, all the best, man.
All right, cheers, brother.
All right, thanks, everybody. We'll tune in again tomorrow night. Adnan Verk's going to join me tomorrow night. Thanks, folks.